Dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Šiaulių bankas Investor Conference webinar about financial results and company's activities in the second quarter of 2019. Today we are hosted by the Chief Executive Officer Vytautas Sinius and Head of Finance and Risk Management Division Donatas Savickas. After the presentation, we will open the floor for questions. If you would like to use the opportunity to ask questions, please use the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. Your questions will be answered after the presentation. Please, Vytautas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and welcome, dear investors, analysts, and colleagues to the Investor Conference webinar Šiaulių bankas. So thank you for joining us in this event, and I'll be glad to present second quarter highlights and some other information that's relevant last days. So probably let's get started with the next slide. I'm trying now to move it. Okay, it doesn't function though. Just a second. Okay, here we have it. So highlights of the second quarter of this year. So despite that the profit growth on absolute terms shows only 3%, but we're happy about recurring activities that reach 23% growth on year basis, and that shows solid development of our recurring activities, which you can see on a graph as well, showed by quarters. The second item is that Moody's recently upgraded Šiaulių bankas credit rating, and we are now standing at only 2 notches below the credit rating of Lithuania. As well as another of the highlights that we started recently our cooperation with savings platform Raisin, and that turned out to a successful engagement. So we are actively attracting long-term deposit with this platform. It's more than 7 million euros has been attracted. As well, we are continuing upgrading our customer service outlets since we are still having the largest network in the country and treat that as one of the strong channels of sales to our customers. So we're expecting that till the end of the year, about 27 out of 62 branches will be upgraded to the new standard. And also important thing to mention that we are keeping the positions of being most traded stock in Nasdaq Baltics, and our volume of trading of Šiaulių bankas stock is has reached the level of last year recently. On the graphs, as I mentioned already, recurring activities shows steady, a nice growth each quarter, and we keeping return on average equity also by quarters on rather high level of more than 20%. Okay, so let's move on and dig deeper to the loan portfolio. On a graph, you see the development by quarters. Relatively high yield on loans we managed to keep at quite a long time, despite that the growth of portfolio develops several years in a row in the double-digit figures, and it seems that 2019 will not be different, since we grew from the beginning of the year already 9%, and the second quarter was roughly successful with 7% quarter-on-quarter growth. And by that we have reached a loan portfolio of more than 1.5 billion euros. So to reach that growth, we from the beginning of the year, we contracted with the clients about 400 million euros of new loan agreements, and that's 16% higher than in the previous year. Talking about the portfolio diversification, we treat that as it continues to be quite well diversified, with each particular sector below 15%. Our main focus remain on the real estate and the construction, combined sectors risk monitoring, and we treat that with a high risk, and therefore we work only on the very selective basis, talking about those two sectors. There's some slight shift in individual client portfolio part, that renovation has slightly decreased. However, consumer lending and mortgage respectively increased, and so we can move to another slide where we have a bit more detailed information about the last two subsectors. So consumer financing being as our strategic business line, I think we're doing quite nice job developing our consumer financing portfolio, which grew from the first quarter to the second by 12% and reached 134 million euros. And looking even for the longer period, starting from the beginning, just counting on year basis, the growth is even higher and close to 30%. We had some internal reshifting of consumer loan product that is now developed mainly by SB Leasingas, our daughter company. Historically, we were developing a consumer loan product in two entities, but now we moved all consumer lending loan products to SB Leasingas. Thus, we are receiving more synergies internally and expecting continuous strong growth on consumer financing products. Talking about mortgages, you see that in Lithuania, mortgage loans constitute about 40% of total loans. But Šiaulių bankas is having historically very low, percentage of our loan portfolio of mortgages, and our market share is very marginal, only 0.7%. But as we mentioned in our previous communications, that mortgage is one of the areas where of a bigger focus, and we delivered some good initial results already in the second quarter of growing our mortgage portfolio by 20%. And we're projecting that environment for mortgage growth continues to be quite positive. So we will keep on growing in this segment as well further. Related to mortgage business is housing renovation, probably worth just refreshing information about this segment. So we, as experts in this business line already for many years, I would say even almost decades, investing in know-how of developing financing instruments to housing renovation, and by that we reached and keep the level of 60% market share in this particular segment. And the total amount of agreements that we already signed with administrators is close to 500 million euros, with again close to 2,000 credit arrangements with those administrators, and that we can say that about 100,000 of households indirectly has used our financing through the housing renovation programs. And that's continues to be a significant source of our commission income and increasing source of our interest income. So you can see the split in the chart in the sheets that Šiaulių bankas already financed more than initially EAB funds were attached to this program. So Šiaulių bankas financed already 57% of historic figures that were injected into the renovation program. And the new amount, which is on the current environment, is 150 million euros, out of which Šiaulių bankas already made decision for 90 million euros of a new call that is currently in place. So I believe we will continue investing our resources to housing renovation programs and keep leadership in this segment in the near future as well. So daily banking and trading activity slide number 6. Again, strong performance of fee and commissions during the last period, both first and second quarters. Compared to the same period in 2018, the growth of 30%. And yeah, I'm glad to say that not only account-related, transaction-related, and cash-related services delivers, but also services related with securities as well as housing renovation becomes visible and an important part in our commission and fee income. The same situation is with foreign exchange operations. Record results of the second quarter 2019, 2 million euros has been generated from FX. And the same positive results in the first half of the year coming from net gains on securities. So far so good on those elements, and we see it's a strong background for the results of the whole year. Good, so let's move on to the slide number 7 on risk management. So capital adequacy ratio, I would say we continuously keep the level close to 18% if we include interim profits, and our risk appetite level, as you can see, stays on a 15%, no major changes in that, and the red line representing the minimum requirements is fluctuating in some period of time, and in the longer term, from the beginning of 2021, should reach 13.5%. So quite in a short and medium term, we see that our risk appetite should be sufficient, even including the increasing requirements in the coming years to 13.5%. So keeping risk appetite at 15 and the actual at about 18, I think we're quite well positioned in terms of capital adequacy ratio. On risk ranking, I would say the top focus on the more red color named risks, so IT cyber risk, compliance risk, and operational risk. So we put it some declining heat on the IT and cyber risks, since some additional investment has been made on IT sector, including some new recruitment that we having recently strengthening our IT team, as well as having some additional external resources auditing and supporting us how to develop continuously our IT systems. Strong focus on compliance risk, more and more investments in this area, and working strongly, especially on AML risk, which in current years becomes more and more a hot topic. And operational risk also we treat as slightly increasing because Šiaulių bankas is becoming more and more visible and important institution in the country. Therefore, our role and both reputational risk is also could be treated as a higher risk to us. Okay, and let's move on to slide number 8, which shows the latest news that we announced recently, i.e. yesterday. There was a message through the Nasdaq regarding engagement by Šiaulių bankas of Wood and Company in order to assist us to review our potential strategic alternatives. We treat that as a good and right moment to explore that. Since Šiaulių bankas has been developing quite nicely last period, especially with the recurring activities, we see possibility to find what is the best way further for Šiaulių bankas to grow and especially to enhance all shareholders' value. Definitely, it means that we do not make any changes in our current activities. We focus to our strategy. Bank continuously focus on our key client segments. But as I mentioned, we would like to try the market and to see whether any possibilities for the bank and for the shareholders to unlock more value of Šiaulių bankas. Yeah, so you've seen that announcement and all possible information that we currently having has been announced, and once we have some material achievements in this area, we will announce accordingly. Good, and last but definitely not least slide showing our presentation is a development of Šiaulių bankas share price and trading volumes. So I'm truly happy that we are the best traded stock in the region, and that we just recently reached higher levels of volumes compared to even the whole 2018, and the last development of a share price also keeps us very optimistic that Šiaulių bankas will be priced further above the book value, which we hit at that level recently, and will be more and more comparable with our peer players in the region. That is based on the strong performance of the bank. As well, we see the interest of new investors, that both local Lithuanian as well as international. As you can see, the split of a shareholder structure represents, I would say, quite nicely 50-50 international investors and locals. And as I mentioned, it's nice that more and more new financial and different type of investors find Šiaulių bankas as an interesting stock to invest. And also on the slide, we're showing the target prices that's set by 3 analysts who follow our stock development, our bank's development, and that also makes us optimistic. And with all our activities, we believe that we would come sooner or later to those levels that are indicated by the analyst. So far that's it from my side. Of course, if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them. So thank you.
Thank you, Vytautas. Now we will proceed with the questions. As mentioned, we will start with the questions received in advance. In the meantime, you can send in questions using the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. The 3 questions we received in advance are the following. The first, many banking peers, giving the example Commerzbank in Germany and etc., across EU started to signal increase of bad debt provisions against issued commercial loans. Furthermore, in recent discussions between Finance Minister of Lithuania and President of Lithuania, there were discussions re-preparations for rapid slowdown in economy. What would be the impact to the quality of loan portfolio if the rapid slowdown scenario materializes? What are the risk mitigation measures in place to mitigate potential losses? Any potential impact to capital structure and dividend policy?
Thank you. Yeah, good question. So I would say so far we don't see any significant signs of potential slowdowns. Just looking to our actual figures of NPE and overdue loans. So both the sector and Šiaulių bankas is, bottoming to the, I would say, quite low levels. Of course, the cycle is long, and we could expect in some time in the future slowdowns and the non-performing loans starting to increase. However, as I said, currently there are no signs looking backwards for this year, and we even below our projected and forecasted for us provision figures looking to the actual results for the first half. What are the mitigating factors? I would say that historically Šiaulių bankas has been crediting clients with strong collaterals, both mainly based on real estate, as well as we historically been doing our structuring on finance with a different type of guarantees that were mainly provided by European Investment Fund and local state-owned company Invega. So I would say diversification of second way out collaterals could be one of the mitigating elements for us to reduce potential losses that could come out of this, some slowdown. As well, probably worth mentioning that with introduction with IFRS 9 standard, the provisions has to be made in advance. Therefore, if some, slowdown would start, so all the banks would need to start, bringing to the P&L some provisions earlier than it used to be in the previous periods with the previous regulation. Therefore, this period for provisioning problematic loans would be probably longer. Yeah, so that's it for this question.
Next question, what is the estimated impact of potential hard Brexit?
Yeah, Brexit topic is already for quite a long time in the discussions. So as we see, there is probably no direct impact for the bank itself. So mainly we are not have so much links directly as a bank with UK. But definitely number of clients that are involved in export business or input business, so they will definitely will feel some impacts out of this situation. And just looking from our client perspective, we don't see any major impacts to the bank out of Brexit scenarios. Also worth mentioning that this period already in the air for quite a long time, and most of the clients, they prepared themselves for this scenario, and probably there will be some whether losses or decline in the revenues, but there we don't see any major credit risk coming out of this hard Brexit scenario. And also worth mentioning that number of clients, they are reducing this risk, and mainly risk related with the pound, making some hedges for the transactions.
Next question. Following the announcement of H1 results, the share price gets a lot of buy support from trade coming from Šiaulių Bank. Would appreciate a comment on this and confirmation that this is not done by the insiders of the company as defined by the law.
Yeah, so the trading, as I mentioned earlier, is pretty active, and Šiaulių Bankas is a strong intermediary between buyers and sellers. And as I also mentioned, we observe quite active involvement of different type of investors that some of them new and some of them already have a position with Šiaulių Bankas, and we don't observe any active role of related with the bank parties in this development. So mainly that's external investors to Šiaulių Bankas.
Okay, now we will proceed with the questions submitted online. I would like to have Vytautas to read out the first question.
Just a second, let's just see, because that's a new question. Yeah, so just a second. Okay, there's a question in Lithuania, so I'll try to interpret that in English. Probably there are some strong shareholders. Can you come back? Probably there are some bigger shareholders that okay, that was not a full question, just a sec. Okay. What is the future plans? You started cooperation with Wood and Company. Is that meaning that some of the larger shareholders are willing to exit? Is that EBRD or Invalda? What is the share price? Because now it seems that the bank is undervalued. Would it be exit possible for the small shareholders as well? And the other question is not related with that. Yeah, so answering this question, I would say we are just started our engagement with Wood and Company, and it means that we're starting discussions about strategic alternatives. Therefore, it's too early to discuss whether it would lead to exit scenario of the shareholders or some alternatives that definitely will be overviewed. Therefore, it's too early to comment any potential outcomes of that. So let's wait for the results, and then we'll see that. And the other part of the question was how the mortgage growth will impact the return on assets. So yeah, when we started to be more active in mortgage business, we based our pricing model and all other conditions related with the mortgage lending to support at least 15% return on equity. So our calculation is based on that, and we see, according to the current yield on the mortgage loans, we are standing above this 15%, above 15% return on equity. Okay.
So the next question, have you set any specific near to medium term targets for yourself in terms of retail mortgage loan market share?
Since we started quite recently this test the market and to accelerate with the mortgage loan, we could not name exact target figures that we would like to reach. However, I could mention that having the assets market share about 6%. So in long term, we would be willing to consider having growing to the asset level market share. However, knowing that this product is long-term loan and the growth of portfolio, it takes a long time. It will not be, easy achievable and short-term target. So probably let's see how we will develop that several quarters, what will be the environment to grow, and then we will can come back with more clear view on the how big Šiaulių bankas could be on a mortgage portfolio compared to the market.
The next question is about AML. Are you working on strengthening your AML field?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned during the presentation and risk slide, that this area has been changed, I would say, several years ago with a much stronger requirements, and we are doing number of activities to continue improving that. Definitely takes time, and we need to do more and more in the sector. So including the strengthening the teams, which has already took part, and also introducing some additional systems that will allow us to improve our online monitoring. So that's our current focus, what we're doing, and a number of different other exercises in ML field.
Next question. Nordic banks are discussing publicly the ideas about possibly starting to charge interest from non-company customer deposits in the light of negative interest rates environment. How is Šiaulių bankas views about this?
Hello. So I will take that question here, Donatas here. So current legislation in Lithuania does not allow to charge negative interest rates to private individuals. Therefore, of course, this discussion what the Nordic banks are currently having, so it's not could be implemented right now here in Lithuania. So answer, no, we don't have such plans.
Next question, what are future plans regarding Šiaulių bankas insurance activities?
Okay. Yeah, so Šiaulių bankas insurance company is one of the companies that's important for our future development, including with Šiaulių bankas as leasingas company, and we see the synergies that we still not utilized in full, i.e. the cooperation with the bank branch network. So we are improving our product quality and cooperation between the life insurance company and the bank. And we see that in a longer term, we could benefit as a group having this company with Šiaulių bankas group.
Okay. The next question. LHV a couple of months ago announced about acquisition of legacy business loans portfolio in Estonia from Danske Bank. What is the situation in Lithuania? Are you interested in acquiring Danske's portfolio in Lithuania?
Yeah, probably the question I can say that we haven't considered that, but as I mentioned before, talking about strategic alternatives, that could be one of the areas that it is possible to consider. So if that would be on sale, probably we could look to that. So let's wait and see.
Next question. Do you feel downward pressure on Šiaulių bankas average yield on loans due to more focus on mortgage loans as opposed to consumer financing?
Yeah, as you see in presentation, that the average yield on loan stands still on a flat and rather high level. It is influenced by number of factors that it either pushes it up or it makes pressure downwards. So the mortgages definitely is the area that will push that curve downwards. However, with consumer loan growth and with the, I would say, still rather high level of commercial loans yield, probably this pressure downwards will be amortized. So depending on the volume of mortgage loans, this decline could be quite marginal. And knowing that we're still actively financing corporate clients, SME clients, and the lion's share of Šiaulių bankas portfolio growth comes from those sectors. So yes, there is some pressure, but there are some amortizing factors that will not allow our yield on loans to go down, drastically.
The next question is about dividend policy. Are there any changes in dividend policy in 2020?
Yeah, it's still half a year has passed, and it's probably too early to talk about the dividends for the whole year. However, talking about dividend policy as such, so we just approved that quite recently, and we consider to stick to that, i.e. that we decided that more than not less than 25% of the generated profit will be paid off as a dividend. So probably in the short term, we stick to that policy. Yeah.
Next question. What is your longer term preference split of loan portfolio between retail and corporates?
I take this question. Hello? Hello? I take this question. So currently, loan portfolio of Šiaulių bankas split it is 80% for corporates and 20% for private retail. So due to the increase of significance of consumer lending and mortgages, we see that possible increase of share for retails, but we don't set any targets in that. So naturally, probably this 20% figure will go up slightly, but no firm targets are set, as I said.
Next question. How do you feel the competition from FinTech companies? Do you see stronger competition in near future?
Yeah, I mean, the FinTech companies is the hot topic in Lithuania, and Central Bank of Lithuania is actively working with a new potential comers to Lithuanian market. And definitely, if that trend continues, we'll have new players in the market, both becoming more as whatever full license or specialized license banks, as well as just payment institution or electronic money institutions. So all of them together will do some, impact to the market. Probably, I would see the most impacted areas are the daily economy areas of the banking business. So mainly payments, some with the payment and transactions related services. On the other areas, we don't see major changes, mainly on the SME financing side. Potentially there could be impact, but I would say rather marginal. So definitely they are becoming visible in the market, despite that, looking from the statistical figures in particular sectors, they're very marginal. But on in some areas, the market share of newcomers will become rather, will grow faster than in incumbent banks.
Next question. The bonds portfolio was reduced significantly in Q2. What were the reasons for that? Does it mean potentially less revenue from bonds portfolio in the upcoming quarters?
Okay, the reasons why we decrease our bond portfolio was related with the increase of our loan portfolio. We managed to employ these funds from bond to the loan portfolio as it generates higher interest rates, and liquidity profile of Šiaulių bankas allows us to increase our loan portfolio without increasing our total assets or attracting new funding, what we don't need right now. So, regarding the second part of this question, so if the portfolio decreases, so naturally interest income from that is less, but it will be compensated or even overcompensated by increase of interest income from loan portfolio.
Okay, the next question is, can you disclose what is the average deposit rate you pay on amounts attracted through raising?
So it's not secret, of course. Actual rates what we're offering for German retail depositors via raising platform is in that platform. But when we launched this service, so we tested this market, and we targeted the long-term deposits, 3 years and more, and the sensitivity regarding interest was very, very high. So as we offered rates what was on this platform, and we were one of the leaders during the several week period, we attracted this mentioned figure of 7 million euros. So after that we lowered our interest rate what we offerings, but we are pretty sure that if needed, we can do this exercise again and get more funding.
The next question, do you plan to change your bank name? Do you plan to move your headquarters to Vilnius?
Yeah. No, actually, talking about the bank's name, we see as the, historically strong name for the bank, and we and I probably most of the Lithuanians are proud having the bank which rooted here in Lithuania, and Šiaulių bankas for most of us means the trade name of the bank, but not the location where it was just established and where it started its journey. And now we can treat Šiaulių bankas clearly as a strongest local player in Lithuania. So we are proud with the name, and we consider continuing strengthening our brand recognition and brand awareness in the market. And regarding the headquarters in Vilnius, so actually we have 3 headquarters as a bank in Lithuania. So in the three cities, so Šiauliai, Kaunas, and Vilnius. And we have a good split of different type of functions working in different cities, and with the relevant technologies and possibilities of today, we easily can communicate with each other, I would say, rather efficiently. So yeah, we'll hope at least in a short time to continue as is, and let's not guess about the long-term future.
The next question, do you have a target for cost income ratio? Where in cost part do you see the biggest challenge?
Yes, we have indications of a cost income ratio. It stands at a level of below 45%. So in most of the last periods, we've been able to be below this ratio. Of course, there are key drivers of the cost side, and I would see the main ones are related with the largest part of the cost associated in the bank's P&L is staff-related, employee-related costs, and the second one, I would say, compliance slash IT-related investments. So that's the areas probably of a short-term driving costs side faster probably than the others. But we have some reserves, so I hope we'll be able to stick to the level of our indicated cost and income ratio.
Next question is, what is current size of Danske portfolio that could potentially come up for sale?
Probably that is not a question for me, and I could not answer that.
Then the next question is, does Medici's bank still is still relevant?
Medicinos bankas probably.
Medicinos bankas,
yeah.
yes.
As I said at the beginning, coming back to this question with engagement with Wood & Company on a strategic alternative review. So we will start our development of our possibilities from that respect. So again, this question is too early to answer, so probably I could not comment that.
Thank you, Vytautas. It seems that all the questions have been answered, and if you don't have any more questions, then I would like to thank Vytautas and Donatas for the presentation and answers. And I would like to remind to all the listeners that the summary of the webinar, together with the presentation and link to the recording, will be made available in an investor event announcement from Šiaulių Banka. You can also listen to today's recording directly from the Nasdaq Baltic YouTube channel on webinar playlist. Again, thank you Vytautas and Donatas for your time, and thank you participants for joining. We hope to meet you next time.
Thank you.